Do big things. That is right. We're doing a conference here in South Florida, November 2nd through the 4th, focused on inspiring entrepreneurs, sales professionals, visionaries, anyone out there with an idea, some kind of action they want to take. This conference is for you. We have 12 phenomenal speakers, and they're going to deliver and teach us how they have accomplished their big things and share with us some things and practical advice and takeaways that plans that we can take and implement in our day-to-day life to accomplish our big things, whatever your big thing is. To learn more, go to dobigthings.net. Again, dobigthings.net. Sales from the street. As you know, on Sales from the Street, I bring on a sales professional, entrepreneur, someone who's went through a sales struggle. They talk about the challenge they had and how they overcame that. Well, this one is a little bit different today. I'm going to interview Ben today, and he's going to give us some good ideas, some things that he's learned that helped him to be more successful, encouraging his prospects to encourage himself. You're going to love it. It's a great discussion. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, and I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. My guest is Ben Settle, and Ben is actually an email marketing genius. He's an entrepreneur. He has done very well for himself with sales, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what level of sales you're in. You know, if you're selling a $20 product or you're selling a $500 product, you've made thousands of dollars or you made hundreds of dollars. The principles are the same. We come across a lot of challenges, and Ben had some challenges early on, and we all have had. And he talks about one of the things that he's discovered with question. In this episode, we just started chatting, man, and we just started going, and we just had a really good time. And I love those episodes. We just kind of vibed, while just sitting here chilling. So it's a good chat, and you'll learn a lot about Ben and about him, and you can connect with him after the episode. Go back to the salesevangelist.com/the word episode 379. You can get everything that you need to know about Ben there. Again, the salesevangelist.com/the word episode 379 to get connected with Ben. I always have, give some shout outs. And I want to give some shout outs this week to a few folks. I want to give a huge shout out to Steve Rosen. Also want to give a huge shout out to Mendy Butler, Natalie Wagner, and Andrew Lavier. Thank you guys so much for connecting with me. I really appreciate it, man. It's always good to learn more about other folks and to see what they're doing out there in the sales world and hustling. And I want to thank you guys so much for connecting with me on Twitter. And if you want to connect with me like these fine folks, you can find me easily, Donald C. Kelly. You can find me on Instagram, Donald C. Kelly. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Donald C. Kelly. We have two communities, both the same concept, the Sales Evangelizers. Shh, don't tell anybody about it. Just kidding. Feel free to spread the word. It's called the Sales Evangelizers, but it's a community designed to help sales pros like yourself, entrepreneurs, come together, ask questions, build strategic alliances, and you never know. I had someone talk to me the other day at dinner. They said that they found someone else in the community. They're going to do business with them. And it's awesome that this happened. We just build relationships. So check it out, the Sales Evangelizers on Facebook, on LinkedIn as well. So shh, don't tell people. Again, just kidding, man. Feel free to spread the word. I would love for you to sit back, get your pens, paper, Evernote, whatever you have ready, because Ben's going to deliver some really good stuff today. And I hope that you are able to take it and apply it to your business career. See you in a few minutes as we dive into this episode. DJ, take us out, please. Welcome to the show, Ben.
Hey, thank you.
Dude, I'm excited to have you. I know you're going to bring us tons of value today on this episode. But before we dive into all the fun stuff, Ben, why don't you tell us about your coolest sales experience when you were the customer?
Okay. When I got sent this question, I had to think kind of deeply about this because, most sales experiences actually suck. So I wanted to find a good one. And I didn't want to just pick like the usual one. Oh, I got all this great benefit and value. I mean, those are fine too. But I wanted to think of a more practical, like street smart, like this is hard. This is the way sales in my mind should be done. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was about 10 years ago. At the time, I live on the Oregon coast now, but I used to live briefly for like a year and a half or so in southern Utah, in this town near St. George, Utah. So it's like desert down there. And they have, for whatever reason, there's these like prickly little bushes everywhere. Okay, it's like with these really sharp little thorns. And I used to ride my bike a lot, pretty much every day actually. And several times I would get a hole in my tire because of these stupid prickly things. So anyway, every time that happened, I would just take it to the bike shop because I don't feel like screwing with it myself. They'd patch it up, and then, I'd be on my way. Well, after like the third time of this happening, the guy at the bike shop says, we have puncture-proof tires. So like, because would you like to, it will save you some money over the long run. And, we have some here. Would you like to buy that? And I'm thinking, why didn't these people tell me this in the first time? But it was a reminder, if obviously that's what I wanted and needed. And, they weren't salespeople there. They probably would have. So I let them off the hook. But it's a good example of this guy named Doug Deanna. He's a direct mail copywriter. And I once talked to him, had a long talk with him about this, and not about that in particular, but just selling in general, because copywriting is salesmanship in print. It's the same thing. And he was talking, I remember him asking me, he goes, look, Ben, I bet I could get my dog to come to me and not you, even though it's your dog and your dog loves you, doesn't even know who I am. And I said, how are you going to do that, Doug? I would love to hear this. I can't even get my dog to listen to you. How are you going to do this? He goes, I would just find out what its favorite dog cookie was and hold it up. And so that's kind of the thing. The bike shop people just held up the cookie for me. There's no reason I wouldn't go buy it. It was just, I needed it. I wanted it. And all they did was say, would you like to have this? And here you go. So there's so much simplicity in that, but it's very powerful if people apply it.
Yeah. I mean, when you say the idea of just holding up my favorite cookie, I mean, I visually thought about that and I visually saw that. And it helps to adjust the way that we, at least for me, the way that I look at my sales. In the way that I'm selling, am I holding up the right cookie to the right people and giving them the right thing? Or am I just trying to do the blanketed approach across the board? You know what I mean?
Well, I'll tell you, man. Okay. So for many years now, going back 8 years at least, but lately again, I'm on this kick with this guy again. His name is Jim Camp. I don't know if you're aware of Jim Camp or not, but he died last year, but he was known as the world's most feared negotiator. This guy used to train the FBI in negotiation. He would go into these $500 million deals in corporate America and negotiate deals. I mean, he was just the best of the best that I've ever seen or heard, at least. And he's big on his approach to selling. And this applies to whether you're selling belly to belly, face to face, on the phone, through an email, in a sales letter, however you're selling, it does on a webinar, from the stage. None of it, it's all the same. He's big. He's almost goes the opposite way of what most salespeople do. If you think of what Zig Ziglar, I like Zig Ziglar, but I'm just saying that, so nothing against him, but Jim would go the opposite thing. There was no hard closing and manipulative tactics or clever phrases. He's all about building vision, because in his way of thinking and all of his years of experience, he would say vision drives decision. And if you can get in their world and talk about things in their world, instead of most salespeople, we just go, we just start pitching our stuff. We never get in their world. But you get in their world and you give them a vision of their problem. And the sale pretty much can make itself. I mean, you still have to do some things, obviously, but basically it gets them in the right frame. So, let's say somebody wanted to sell me a bike tire before that had happened, and let's say the bike shop owner was in there and I was buying something. He could, and let's say he wanted to sell these puncture-proof tires, knowing there's a problem out there, right? They know there's a problem with these stupid thorns. And everybody's going in there what if he said, first of all, if I was him, I would ask him questions. So where are you riding your bike? And of course, everybody's going to say out in the desert, because that's where everybody went, out in the freaking desert where there's snakes and there's no water or anything. And I'd say, well, what's going to happen if you get a flat tire out there? What will happen to you? What if it happens at 3:00 in the blazing sun and there's no one out there? What are you going to do? And suddenly it gets a vision in your head, whoa, I don't know what I would do. What do you think I should do? Well, if I was you, I'd get some puncture-proof tires, because there's all these little thorns out there. Do you see how that sale would be made so easily? It would not even be an issue, because he would have created a vision and not just plug the product.
Yeah. It seems like you're more caring for the individual as opposed to, hey, I have this product. The benefit is this, buy this. Benefit and crap like that doesn't even make sense. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think that's the essence of sales. Is a lot of salespeople, and believe me, I was as guilty of this as anybody, so I'm not picking anybody. It's all about do whatever you got to do to make the sale, whether they want the product or not, or need the product or not. And this other way is you get in there and you start asking them questions first, because you don't even know if what you have can help them until you've talked to them and got in their world. So yeah, it's a whole different approach. And creating that vision is so much easier. It takes away price objection. It takes away, in fact, here's the thing that Jim would talk about is I feel like I'm channeling the ghost of Jim Camp here. He would talk about that the best negotiators, and i.e. we could say salesmen too. It's all the same, right? Negotiating, sales.
Persuading someone to do something, right?
Absolutely. It's all the same. The best ones never create objections in the first place. They don't have to overcome them. What happens is when people do all the typical sales stuff, they create objections. They have to. So I'll give you another example of his and then if you want, we can move on to, I told you, I'm in a gym camp funk these days. I'm going.
Hey, you share value wherever share needs, man. This is good stuff. I'm flowing with it.
Oh, okay, good. So here's another example I remember hearing him say once. And I did have the opportunity to talk to him once. And I asked him if what I was doing with email was exactly what he would do. And he was saying yes. But he was talking about, let's say he wanted to sell someone gasoline. Well, I have such and such gasoline at $2.50 a gallon. It's high grade, rated by this, blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's just a typical sales pitch. But Jim Camp would come in and say, so how many miles can you afford to cut off your engine life? So it gives you a vision. Or take seatbelts, for example. This is like everybody intellectually knows they should wear seatbelts, right? And yet smart people still don't wear seatbelts. So it's not a matter of persuading them. You can sit there and cite statistics, or you can say, and this is just what I heard Jim Camp say, or you can just say, so what's going to happen? Where's your body going to end up if you collide with another car at 80 miles per hour? I mean, is it going to end up, is it going to cut in half? Is it going to be on the side of the road? I mean, where's it? And it puts that vision, though. That's my whole point. And that gets people thinking differently. And so I don't know. Like I said, I'm real excited I feel like I'm relearning all this. It's like I'm having all these breakthroughs lately, listening to this guy's stuff. And so anyway, I'm glad I could share it with you.
Well, we'll put that in the show notes for sure, man. This is some good stuff. Jim Camp, you said?
Yes, Jim Camp. And he has a book called Start With No. He did an interview 8 years ago with my friend Michael Sunoff, but I don't know where you can get that anymore. I think he sells it at hardtofindseminars.com, but it's well worth it, whatever he's charging.
Sweet, man. Yeah, we'll probably have to look out for that and see what we can do to get that going.
Yeah.
And to make sure we put it out there in our show notes. I love it. I love those concepts. And, we can continue with that conversation because everything in that, it ties back to the prospect, but just asking questions. Some people think that I need to be talking a lot in order to sell. In that situation right there, what Jim was doing, especially with the seatbelt, it's like I'm showing you or asking a question and helping you come to a logical conclusion. And it's not trickery. I mean, it's the truth. I mean, if you don't wear a seatbelt, you're going to fly through the windshield going 80 miles an hour. Come on. But I'm not going to tell you that. I'm going to frame the question in a way that gets you to think so you can accept, because you need to make people feel that they're in control, right?
Oh, yeah. And I'll tell you what, you bring up a really good point. Hell, we might as well just call this the Jim Camp episode.
Let's do it. Forget it. Let's just go.
So he was talking about that one of the big one of the big mistakes that I've made all these mistakes, so it's nothing that I haven't done and probably still do on accident sometimes. At least I'm conscious of it now. Is you cannot take away someone's right to veto. In other words, you should always give them the right to say no. But the problem is people ask questions and pitch things in a way that it feels like you're trying to take away the right to say no. It's all tactical. Like, I'm going to close this person or whatever. But when the reality is the best sales, and especially at the upper levels, like in a boardroom and stuff where none of these tactics work, is they have to decide to move forward on their own by giving them a vision. And then you positioning yourself as the person who has a solution. So, I mean, I like I said, I've applied this and back when I used to do client work, it was so much easier to get clients because I would just talk to them like this. I was a freelance copywriter at the time, and I would just say things like, look, so what's going on with your emails right now? How are they doing? Just a simple question. I'm not trying to close them, not trying to wrestle them to the ground to get money out of them. And I remember one client I did that with, and he's like, oh, Ben, let me tell you, we can't get these things to convert at all. He must have went on for like 2 minutes. And it's hard for me to say, well, I can help you with that. I mean, the sale was made because I had him talking about his problem, his world. Jim Camp always says, you're always safe when you're in the other person's world. As long as we're in their world talking about their problems, and not in a manipulative way, though. It can't be like, it can't be like you're trying to manipulate them with questions. It's got to be sincere. Like if you and I have a question and I say, how's things going with your sales right now? If they suck, you're going to be like, oh man, they suck. I can't, we're in a recession, whatever the excuses is. And then you're in their world. You get them talking. I think my favorite example of his, though, really, and this is a real life example of his, is when he first started selling, right? He was the best objection dealer in the world. He said, knew all the books, he knew all the tricks and tactics, and he was selling expensive water filters door to door in a neighborhood with that crummy water. And for 3 weeks, he says he couldn't even get anyone to open the door for him. As he's doing the standard pitch and script. Finally, he just threw all that away and he goes, look, I don't know if I can help you or not. Just tell me if you don't want softer hair and I'll leave. Or, how's your hair treating you? How's the water treating your hair? And then he's in their world. People would invite him inside saying, well, man, I can't get my hair, especially like, women who worry about their hair all the time and stuff. Like they'd be inviting him inside. Well, tell me more, because that's like a big deal to them. Right. And so he got in their world. And so it's a totally different shift in thinking. I mean, it really is. And it's taken me 8 years to get my mind wrapped around it. But that's why I'm so excited by it, because I'm finally starting to get it and apply it consciously now.
The cool thing, Jeffrey Gitomer says, people love to buy, but they hate to be sold. And I think that's where a lot of, marketers and salespeople get the hiccup. We think, again, going back to this, and it's just making so much sense. One of the things that I've learned over my vast 32 years of existence, Ben, is in order to be successful, do the opposite of what everyone else is doing. And if you do that 9 times out of 10, you're going to be different, and you're going to stand off different, and you're going to be more successful. And the key there, when it comes down to it, is you going back to the notion that people love to buy and they don't like to be sold to. I never go and say I got sold this car. I went and bought this car. I never say I got sold this house. I went and bought the house. And sometimes as salespeople, we think that, we need to sell them, but, change the mindset, change the paradigm, change that, and you can radically change the way that you perform. And that, even with the hair example, again, obviously those people who are wealthy, they spend a lot of money on stuff. And again, you're going to sell them, or you're going to help them buy something, and buy something of value, which is, again, the lady's hair. And when we started off talking, it's about customizing, right? Focusing on the client's need and giving them what they want. And that's the important part. That's the key. And I wish people will wake up. I reiterate this over and over in a podcast because it's such a true principle, and it could radically change the way that we sell.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll give you another analogy here. A vision, if you will.
Give me a vision, baby. I want a vision. Show me the light, man.
So my main thing, we were talking before the show, my main thing is email copywriting. That's like what I write, all kinds of copy, but that's what I specialize. That's what I love the most is email copy, writing emails that sell stuff. And one of the things I do differently than practically everybody else out there, even though I freely talk about this all the time, so it's not like I'm keeping it a secret, is I never try to sell. I don't go in there trying to like convince somebody to buy something. I give them the opportunity to buy it. So I show them like how great life is when you have XYZ thing. And I invite them to either come along or not. So what I like to use is the dating analogy, because I've sold some stuff in the dating niche, and I find it fascinating and everything, the psychology, which has many parallels with any kind of selling. And it's kind of like, who's going to have more success getting a girlfriend or picking up girls, getting a wife, whatever their desire, whatever their goals.
Yeah.
The guy who's always constantly like texting and calling a girl and begging her to go out all the time, where she's just going to be repulsed by that. Or the guy who goes somewhere fun, right? He's like, look, I'm going to this XYZ winery today. Do you want to come with? In other words, he's going regardless if she goes or not. He's going to have fun regardless if she goes or not. Other people there are going to be having fun regardless if she goes or not. And she knows this, and he's inviting her to be part of his world instead of sitting there trying to like coax her into his world. And of course, she can say yes or no. I would guess, I'm not guessing, I know for a fact, 'cause I've seen this a million times, that the guy in example B is going to have way more success than the needy guy in example A, who's always trying to be pushy and everything.
Dude, that is so true, man. I've just brought me back to dating experiences in college, and I see it in the same way in the sales world. And it's kind of hard to see why people don't bridge those things together. You know what I mean? Like, they recognize things like that don't work in dating. But when they do sales, they feel that I need to have 50,000 follow-up to the prospect, and don't realize that's not how it is. Or on the first call, hey, buy my product. It's like, bro, I just met you. Call me, maybe.
It's totally true. Here's a real life example. And I don't think this person will be listening because I kind of cut this person out. So my ex-girlfriend, I just broke up like 2 or 3 months ago, right? So I'm newly back as the time of this recording, I'm back in the game. Yeah. Already on the chase, right?
Yeah.
Which has been a hell of a lot more fun, because the better I get on the sales and persuasion stuff, just the easier it gets and the more fun it gets. I mean, it's amazing to me. But
so that's why I have such a big spike on the downloads. You've been listening to the episode, huh?
Well, I'll tell you what, man. This one girl I was talking to recently. Now, nothing wrong with her. Perfectly good girl. Okay, there's nothing wrong with her. But just too chatty. Just constantly texting me all the time. Too needy. Trying too hard. When if she had just like pulled back a little bit, I would have been far more likely to want to go out with her. But I just this girl just constantly, it's just like, it's like pressure, right? It's weird. And that's how I think a lot of customers feel when they're constantly being pressured. Now, I got to say something else though, because if there are people who in our audiences who overlap, which I'm sure there are, people who are on my email list see that I email every day, daily. And when I'm doing a launch or a special sale, I'll mail like 3 times a day and then maybe as much as 9 times on the last day of the launch. I'll say, well, Ben, aren't you making the same mistake? And I say, no, because all of my emails are written in that way that I talked about before, where I'm inviting them to be a part of my life. Now, whether or not they go, or my product, whatever it is I'm selling, whether or not they buy, I really don't care. I mean, I don't need any one person. It doesn't matter. It's just posturing. That's what they call it in sales, posturing. But the reality is this, Donald, I really believe this. And I believe this for anyone listening to this. If you have a product that's a high quality product or a service that's high quality service, and this is just, I don't think anyone would be able to dispute me on this. The math is on your side. There is less supply of you or your product, or just a less supply of you than there are of people who need it. There's way more people who could potentially want or need it. You don't need to sell everybody to make a very good living. And the math is on your side. And when you go in knowing that the math is on your side and that it gives you a tremendous sense of just calmness and peace, and you don't do all this needy stuff because you realize, hey, I got something they need. I'm going to let them know it exists, but I'm not going to push it on them because what do I care? If they buy or not. I mean, I care. I want them to buy, obviously, but what do I care if they reject me? I don't. That's their problem. At that point, I haven't lost them. They've lost me. And that's the way I look at it.
That is so true, man. I had an interview today with a gentleman. We were chatting about that this morning. You can't just be that desperate. You have to be willing to, in order to gain, sometimes you have to be willing to let go. You know what I mean? You can't just sit there and beg for everyone's business. They're not all going to be a fit for you. And if it don't work, don't cry over it. Life goes on. There are so many other opportunities out there, going back to the dating opportunities. I think we all had our hearts broken at one point in our lives. And it's just like, hey, life goes on. You get up and you move on and you find somebody else and you kind of forget about that. And it's the same thing with our sales. Every day you might have those, but get up and move on and just keep going forward.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, and this is going back to the Jim Camp stuff. He was a big, this is probably what differentiated him from everybody else is he really believed this because he was a pilot during the Vietnam War. And this is what they trained soldiers to think, right? That a principle or a rule overrides a tactic. So people are always going out there and selling. And I see it in copywriting, especially, and not just regular selling, but all kinds of selling. They go out with these tactics. Well, what if I use this magic phrase or this magic line or this magic close? And it's not like there's anything wrong with those things. But what if you just go in with the principle that you live by saying, look, I don't really know because it's the truth, right? This is absolutely the truth. I don't know if I can help this person or not until I've talked to them and gotten their world. But what do most people do? They go in there saying, you need this and I can help you with that without knowing if they really can. And there's a huge difference in those two mindsets. So, that's something I've long been following for years, ever since I first learned this, is that I am far more principle-based than. I'll give you an example. So one of the ways I do business, okay, and this is for selling by email and all that, but I think this would apply to pretty much any persuasion. I'm a big believer in something. I didn't coin this phrase. I mean, I guess someone did before me, so I can't claim it, but I didn't hear it until then. Repulsion marketing. So in the MLM world, there's a big push for what they call attraction marketing. I did a lot of copywriting in the MLM world for this really brilliant entrepreneur named Mike Dillard. And he's just a brilliant guy. But his thing was, the guy was he's selling genius. He really is. He's great at this stuff. And I remember hearing him do some phone calls and stuff. I mean, the guy, he knows what he's doing. But he's big on attraction marketing. And there's nothing wrong with that. Attraction marketing is you put marketing out there trying to attract people to you. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a very valid way of doing it. But I have found that repulsion marketing, where I focus on trying to repulse people I don't want away, actually attracts more of the people I do want just by default. And so it's a principle I deal with. So for example, I have no problem telling people that my product is not for, if you're going to go in debt to buy my product, don't buy it. Just don't just wait till you have the money. Now, how many salespeople would do that? Now, I don't want people who are in debt. I don't want people who it's going to be a struggle for them because I know they're going to be doing things out of a position of fear and neediness, and it's not going to help them what I sell. People who complain about information overload, these are people who buy everything and they never implement anything. So in my sales letters, in my emails, I'm always saying, look, if this is you, just don't bother buying. I don't want your business. I don't say those exact words, but I use verbiage to say, look, this isn't for you. Maybe there's something out there for you, but it's not my product. And you'd be amazed at how well that not only works to attract the people I do want, but even the people that initially didn't want, sometimes they change the way they think so that they can qualify themselves to have that product. And that's how you really change lives in this business, from what I've seen.
Oh man, I couldn't have said it any better. You got it right there with that, man. I love it. It's something that I'm trying to do even more so now. I got it from I was part of a sales training organization I got trained with when I was new to sales. And one of the things they encouraged us to do was to find out if you're fit or not, and to push the prospects to help them to see if what you have to offer is a fit for them or not, and be willing to tell them so, and just not be so scared of them walking away. And it's something that's helped me to make sure I go for the right people my whole career. And I love it. So, but I want to hit upon a couple of things before we wrap up here, man, on the email side. A lot of people make a lot of mistakes with email marketing, email prospecting. What's one major tip you'd like folks to get as we get ready to wrap up here?
Well, I see. Okay, so people who are in email, they tend to make one of two mistakes, or both in some cases, but they either don't sell anything, they're scared to sell. So they just give free information out every day, thinking that if they store up all this goodwill from their list, that they'll magically all want to buy from them when they do have something to sell. I won't say that never works. There's certain people that works for in certain markets, but it doesn't work nearly as well as letting people know there's something for sale every day, but just doing it in a way that doesn't waste their time. So that's one mistake people make, just constantly giving stuff away. The other mistake is all they do is pummel people with blatant sales pitches. It's just either one of those two things will either turn people off or turn them hostile toward you, when the reality is that the best way to do it is to mix content with promotion in every email, and do it in a way where there's this guy named Ken McCarthy, who's like the founding father of internet marketing as we know it. He's even like Wikipedia Time Magazine was saying that, gave him credit for he was the first guy to say click-throughs is the way you measure stuff on the internet. That's how far back he goes. Okay. And he said something, and he's been doing this for a very long time, and he's been doing direct marketing for even longer than that. He's like, look, every time I'm about to send an email out to my list, I have to ask myself, does this warrant me interrupting their day for a few minutes? And if not, you shouldn't send it. At the same time, I would add to his wisdom on this, if you don't let people know something exists for sale, and not hiding it in a PS or anything, but just let them know in the email so there's no question. I believe that people who sit there and try to hide stuff like that are very selfish, because people are on your list because they want something. They have a problem or a desire, something that you can help them with. To not let them at least know it exists every day to me is a very selfish thing to do. So, and I'll give you an example of that. In the email world, there's this thing going around where people go, I'm going to send a goodwill email. There's nothing to sell in it. I'm just going to do it because I want to be nice. Which comes off as it's very selfish, because there's people who need that, whatever the solution is. There are people, for example, let's say you have a urinary tract infection. Now, Donald, I've never had one, but I don't want one after all the stuff I've heard. Okay, it's painful, like piss and razor blades. Ouch. So what if one person goes to the drugstore to get something? They say, oh, no, we got nothing for sale today, but here's some information on urinary tract infections, but you can't buy anything because this is a goodwill day. We want to show you we're not just here to sell. You see what I mean? That's the mentality and I just disagree with it.
Yeah, man. It's a good point you bring up there. And I feel the more genuine you are, the better off you're going to be in the long run.
Absolutely.
The more you can, do to help somebody else, truly genuinely help them. That's where the greater result's going to come from. But man, you gave us so much value today. If there's one major thing you want people to walk away with from this episode today, what's that one major piece of advice?
It goes back to what I heard Jim Camp say. You're always safe when you're in the other person's world. And if you're just going in there pitching, look what I got, look at my product, you're not in their world. You have to get in their world first. Get to find out what's going on with them mentally and what the problem is and how they feel about it, and get them thinking about it and build a vision first. Then they'll be begging you to show them the solution. So, yeah, it's just a reversal of how things are usually done.
Sweet, man. Dude, thanks so much. If folks want to get in touch with you, they like you. They're like, man, this guy sounds like he knows what he's talking about. I'm willing to learn more about him, get connected with him. I want to get his emails. What's the best way for them to connect with you, man?
Best way is to go to bensettle.com. And you don't have to opt into my list, but if you do opt into my list, I will give you the first issue of my $97 a month email players newsletter. It's a print newsletter, but I'll give you the PDF of the first issue. And if you're using email at all, there are 24 ways in there that you can use, starting today. Just pick any of one or two of them to start making more sales with email. I've actually had people tell me they've made thousands, in some cases tens of thousands of dollars just on the information in that free issue. It's bensettle.com. If you don't give me your email address, that's fine. You can actually just go into the blog. I have over 1,000 pages of content on there, over a dozen hours of audio and video. It's all free. And it's just a way for me to demonstrate that I know what I'm talking about. Or maybe you think I don't know what I'm talking about either way, but it's all in there.
Dude, this is good, man. I'll put that all information in our show notes. I'm excited. I think it's great. And we are stoked to have you, man. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, man, for sharing some insights with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. It was fun.
Anytime. I told you, man, he knows what he's talking about with those questions. If there's a way that you can help the prospects sell themselves, you are well on your way to become a successful seller, because that's what's key. You can tell them all that, you can force them and try to encourage them and trick them. That's never going to work. But if you can focus on helping the prospect persuade themselves through proper questioning, you're there, man. Some people think you have to talk a lot. You don't have to talk a lot to be a great seller. You have to be able to ask the right questions that can engage and to guide your prospect. And they will, if it's a fit for them, they're going to make the decision themselves and feel more in charge. And I think the concepts that we shared today and had a discussion on is right along those lines. If you want to learn more about Ben and get connected with him, he's a phenomenal copywriter as well. Great concepts when it comes to email marketing. You can find all that information by going to thesalesevangelist.com/the word episode, the number 379. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/the word episode, the number 379 to get connected with Ben. All in all, I want you to be successful. That's why we're doing the Do Big Things conference. That's why we do these podcasts. I want you to be happy. But most importantly, like I said, I want you to go out and do big things. Stay tuned for a peek at our next episode.
He started pointing out to me the things that I might lose, not necessarily the things that I will gain. It turns out that I have over 300 hours over the past 5 years that I can use for personal legal challenges.